Welcome to Midlife Moves, where we're figuring out this whole midlife thing one day, one workout, and one what the hell just happened moment at a time. I'm Heather, and if you're navigating career shifts, fitness goals, parenting teenagers, or just wondering when the hell we became the grown-ups, you're in the right place. Let's talk about the real stuff, no filters, just honest conversations and a little bit of chaos. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome back. I'm Heather Francis. I'm really excited about the interview that you're going to hear today. I got a chance to sit down with my friend Jay Kelmer. On his birthday, he came over and he sat with me in my podcast basement, and we talked for an hour about mindset. We talked for an hour about comparison and about being selfish for ourselves and about habits that make our minds a little bit of a nicer place to be. I got so much out of this conversation. When he left, I felt so good. And then when I listened to it back, I just felt so inspired and so calm and so good. And I hope that you feel the same way after you listen. Jay is a mindset mentor, and he is a lead coach at Lifetime Athletic, my gym. He's a whole lot of fun. He's actually the first person I approached when I decided that I was going to do this little project. And he very graciously and very enthusiastically said, "Of course, I will do this with you." And I'm so glad he did, because it was just so fun. So here it is. Here's my interview with Jay Kelmer. As always, let me know if you have any feedback, if you have any questions for Jay. You can find me on Instagram. And thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Jay Kelmer.
Hey, what's up?
Thank you. Thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
We're going to have fun.
Yes, absolutely.
We're just going to jump right in.
Sounds great.
Okay. You're a mindset mentor.
Yes.
Can you first talk to me a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. I think what it means really is just helping people change their perspective of the direction of their life they're going. Mm-hmm. And in my experience in life, and today's actually my birthday. But as I turn the chapter and looking ahead, there's so much noise that exists in everybody's life. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that we focus on, the right things. So for me, what that looks like is expressing gratitude on a daily basis. And, being a mentor along the mindset is, number one, is you have to practice what you preach. But then number two is helping people regain perspective of where they're actually going and where they actually are. Mm-hmm. Because you have to be, grateful for what you have in order to really, move in a direction of a life that you want to pursue and that you want to live.
Yeah. So that gratitude piece is huge. Mm-hmm. You and I talked a little bit about the way you start your day. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's is that where it all that for me, sure. That's how I start the day makes a big difference in how the rest of my actions play out?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, every decision that we make throughout the day is either going to push us or pull us, towards or away from whatever it is that we're looking to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to establish a solid morning routine, just like you have, you're going to completely eliminate or give yourself a better chance to be successful in those things, because you're going to eliminate any potential obstacles or barriers that might pop up, the later in the day you try to push those off. Mm-hmm. So certainly for myself, it's always going to be talking to myself positively in the morning and making sure that, once again, I'm where my feet are. And that will help you get going in a direction where when you're laying in bed and you're like, man, snoozing the alarm sounds super awesome today, but I made a promise to myself that I was actually going to get up and go to the gym, right? How many times have you had this argument with yourself? Mm-hmm. Probably so many times that you can't even count anymore.
Yeah.
And so once again, even just that first decision that you make, once again, is either going to push you towards where you want to go, or it's going to pull you away. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read the book Make Your Bed? It's something like that, and it's the premise of it is if you do nothing else, I didn't read the book.
Yeah.
I'm summarizing the book
Yeah,
based on
yeah.
Michael reading the book.
Mm.
But the premise of it was like, if you just make your bed, if you do nothing else, but you make your bed,
Yeah.
like at least you got like that one thing done.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of the same idea.
Yeah, I mean, as human beings, right? Like we have to set ourselves up for success to have small wins.
Mm-hmm.
So just by making your bed in the morning, you know, you're able to maybe approach other things that maybe are more difficult in your life with a little bit more confidence because you already kind of, you know, knocked off that one notch in your belt and did something productive and something that you can feel like really good about.
Yeah.
It's also way better coming home at the end of the day, like to have made bed. I don't make my bed every day because, you know, my dog Daisy loves laying in my bed. But I'm used to like trying to pull the sheets over and like all that stuff. But there's a lot of truth to that for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I have dogs in my bed like all the time too. So.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, they're just, you know.
All the time. So you're a lead trainer at Lifetime.
Yes.
And that puts you in a position that so like the audience of this podcast is primarily going to be women.
Yeah,
and women in like my age group. So, you know, like we're talking like late 30s to 60s.
Okay.
Right. Hopefully.
That's what we're going for.
That's what we're going for.
Right.
What do you see? Like, I know what my struggles are mindset wise, like regarding fitness. Yeah. But what do you see with your clients that translate into like what you live? Yeah. Right.
I feel like this is a whole topic on its own, but it's really good though, because, and I'm happy we're talking about this because the first thing is like, if you are part of the audience, you know, listening into this, watching this, it's so important just to like, you know, reflect on yourself. The day and age of social media, which is like, can be really, really good. Like, so hopefully like this message is getting out there and like having a positive impact due to the power of that. But it can also be really hurtful and maybe make us not feel so great about ourselves. And I think that, you know, even as kids, like a lot of our subconscious behaviors or responses or how we feel about certain things are all rooted from, you know, when we're kids. And as we age, each kind of segment of life, we're led to believe that the next step should look like this. And then you get there and you're like, wait a second, you know, well, maybe I thought I was going to have one kid and I had twins, and maybe I thought I'd be married, but now I'm married and divorced. Like, you know, everyone's going to have a different trajectory in life. And certainly like, you know, the age demographic that you described, like most people expect to be kind of like settled in and really living life to however they kind of pictured it from when they were kids. And unfortunately, like for most of us, whatever story we once told ourselves is not the story that we're writing for ourselves every day. So number one is like, you know, one of my favorite quotes is that comparison is the thief of joy. And it is so easy to like open up your phone. The first thing you do when you wake up, and I'm guilty of it. I'm really trying hard to like manage screen time and like understanding like the correlation of like what I'm doing with screen time and how it affects my mental health and things like that. And I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, I don't read research on it, but I can tell you with almost 100% certainty that if we consume ourselves with that, like whatever, you know, that's part of our diet too, whatever we're seeing. So number one is like, you have to make sure that we aren't looking out and comparing. And that's not just from like the physical fitness, but that could be lifestyle, that could be career, that could be family, whatever, you know, whatever category you want to put that into. It's so important to focus on, once again, yourself and not what you're doing, not what I'm doing, not what anybody else is doing. I really think that's kind of like the first step, and, you know, doing some self-reflection. And if you're trying to make some changes, understand that every single choice that you make, and like what I was talking about earlier, is what got you here. And that's a part of who you are. And that's a really beautiful thing. And like, you should embrace that. And sometimes it's real easy because of everything we're watching and go around, is like, we can be really hard on ourselves for the decisions that we made that put us here today. But that's like, that's our character. Like that's our identity. And like, that's what's going to allow you to have strength to take the next step that maybe is really challenging to actually develop into the person that you want to be. It's incredibly difficult, right? Because a lot of people don't have support. And that's why I think like what you're doing is so cool, because, you know, even if just one person is positively impacted by these conversations, these very intentional conversations that you're having, then hopefully like you can sleep a little better at night knowing that like you did your job, right? You
Yeah.
help and fulfill your purpose,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't compare yourself to other people, and whatever it is you're looking to change. Once again, like obviously we're connected through the fitness world. And if it's that, it's like you got to master the monotony and understand that like once you get to where you want to be, the work doesn't stop. It's something that I continue to like battle with myself, you know? So
I saw this meme, and it was, I don't know what it was. It was a meme. It was on Instagram, and it's to the effect of like I reached this goal, and like it's just like yay, you know, but I don't reach it and it's the end of the world.
Sure.
Like we just we don't celebrate our wins at all. Like we just are so like accustomed to looking at our failures and comparing ourselves to other people. And, you know, so I know I do that.
yeah,
it's really hard not to do that.
I do it every day.
It's so hard. Yeah. Well, especially because like, I guess with like, I always look at it from like a woman's perspective and from like, you know, like having young daughters.
Sure.
But men deal with the same thing.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. You guys just may not talk about it as much as we do.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, I consider myself like a very vulnerable person. I'm very open because I do believe like with vulnerability is like the sign of true strength. Like if I'm having a hard time, I'm not afraid to tell somebody that I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
I like emotions because I think they teach you a lot. And, but I certainly agree, you know, I certainly agree that men, although maybe not talking about it as much, probably have similar feelings per se, maybe not from the same reasons, but like we too go through certain things as well.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard to remember that sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to get, you know, and that's another thing too, is like, as I'm like encouraging people to be so, you know, to really like look inward and reflect on yourself and not to compare yourself. It's also me not sitting here being like, you have to be like very, very self-centered and like selfish and like things like that. I think to a degree, yes, but also at the same time, like, I don't know, I'm a big like quality of a relationship guy. I think I sent you a quote and maybe I'm jumping too far ahead of where you want to be here, but it's like, you know, to me, it's like from Esther Perel, who's like a world-renowned relationship coach, but she says like the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of your relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is accurate. Yeah. Right? Because what are you're who you surround yourself by. I remember, so when I decided that this was going to be my outlet, this podcast, there was 3 people that I was like, I know that I want to talk to these 3 people. And one of them, it was my pastor, because she's incredible. It was Sean, because it's Sean. Yeah. And it was you. Oh, and I remember when I talked to you about it, you were the first person I talked to about. And I was like, we can talk about anything. You were like, I want to talk about mindset. And I was like, yes. And and that's what you said. You were like, I want to talk about like being selfish. And I don't remember exactly, but but it's true, because especially like this audience and the women that we're like, I can only speak to myself. Sure. I have 4 kids. And so I can remember when they were young, people would be like, you need to go take care of yourself. And I'm like, fuck you. Who's going to do all of these things that need to be done? And I didn't do them. I didn't do them at all. And so I found myself, now that my kids are growing, in this space where I don't know how to take care of myself, because I didn't do it all those years. And if I could change one thing, it would be to be a little bit more selfish and take that time and take care of myself. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I mean, another thing that I've heard along the way is that, you know, sometimes you have to be selfish before you can be selfless. Which is, and I wish that we were better at that. Yeah. And not selfish in the sense that like, screw you, exactly. I'm doing me. Yeah. But like selfish in the sense that like, no, I really need to do this for me. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think especially like, you know, the demographic you kind of talked about, late 30s to 60s women. Once again, like that phase of life is like, for most, what they hope to be motherhood. And, you know, once again, like we were so conditioned, or what my perspective or perception is, that we're conditioned to believe that the second you have kids, nothing else matters but them first. And what I witness with clients and friends and things like that is that
that oftentimes happened, and it's happening, and it's hard to break out of that because you start developing mom guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when your kids become old enough and aware that maybe you're spending a little bit less time on them and a little bit more time on you. And that can be really, really challenging. Obviously, I'm not a mom, nor do I have kids, right? So I don't know if I can directly relate, but I certainly have like witnessed and like help people through that transition. And I'm sure what you're experiencing really kind of, I guess I've probably known you for the last year and a half now and watching you evolve so much is hopefully you're experiencing like how much stronger of a mom that you can be, and not just like physically, but emotionally, for your kids as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They see what I'm doing now, and I talk to them about what I did wrong. Because if we're not sharing the things that we fail at, then nobody else can learn either. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think sometimes they get annoyed with me because I post a lot of videos on Instagram that they don't love, but
that's okay.
But that's all right. They don't have to look.
But once again, it's like at some point or another, they're going to have a moment where they'll be like, Mom, thank you so much for doing that because you really led the way. And that's really like, whether if you're a parent, if you're an adult and there's somebody, if anybody's looking up to you, it's all about leading by example.
Yeah.
The way that other people are going to learn and adapt, especially if they're your own kids, is by what you're doing. We can say things all we want, but it's all about our actions, right? It's all about our actions. Here's another one for you by a guy named Ed Milet. He says that things are caught, not taught. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, that's so good.
Yeah, that is good.
That's really good because that's so true. That, like, especially when you're in that phase of life where you have kids, is that, and one of the things that you should really like be relentless towards every day is leading by example. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Just some light conversation on your birthday.
Yeah, we're hitting some hot points here. I love this stuff though. Like I mean, I always joke around too, and I tell people this all the time. It's like if leadership was a love language, like I mean that would be my love language. Mm-hmm. And, for me, ever since a young age, due to my, I really spent a lot of time on like personal growth. And I'm not like, I can't sit here and be like every single day I read 10 pages or I meditate, I do that. But those are certainly big components of like my life today. Mm-hmm. And like over the last, 36 years of like who I became, mm-hmm. because I had to do that stuff at a young age to get me to where I'm at. Mm-hmm. I love this. I literally could talk about this stuff all day. I literally always joke around with like the trainers at Lifetime. Like I'm not even a good trainer. Like, I'm, but what I love to do is like, I love to coach people.
Yeah.
I think one of the most unique things is like, because part of what people are always going to struggle with is personal belief. Mm. And it's like going back to that conversation of, oh, do I snooze the alarm? Do I go to the gym? Like stacking small wins and how that builds momentum. But what it does is actually helps you build confidence. And with that, whether that's making your bed, going to the gym, hey, every single morning, I'm going to make sure that before I drink my 8 ounces of coffee, I'm going to drink 8 ounces of water.
Yeah.
Right. And like whatever you say you're going to do, when you keep promises to yourself, you're just going to build confidence. And with confidence comes a little bit more personal belief. But so many people just have a really hard time believing that they're worthy of something more. So one of my favorite things as a coach is, casting a vision for them. Because, there's times where I'm like, man, like what's next for me? Like, it's not very clear, but like when you have, whether it's a mentor, a coach, a strong community, a good spouse, a good friend, whoever, it's really helpful sometimes to have somebody say like, I believe in you. Mm. And like, this is actually the greatness you hold, whether if you see it right now or not. And like, that's my favorite thing about what I get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference. Mm. It makes that's I could see you being very, very good at that. Like,
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
and I guess that kind of goes into like the whole limiting beliefs thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I posted on my Instagram page a couple days ago about like my own limiting beliefs and like, you know, like I had a stroke and labeled myself like as a stroke patient for a very, very, very long time. So I didn't do things specifically because that was the identity that I gave myself. And then it wasn't until I started, you know, becoming more involved in our business and spending time at the gym. Like for me, everything goes back to fitness because it's just, it kind of changed. It really did change my life. But like, it wasn't until I started doing things like that to like, and I kind of just, without trying, proved to myself that like, like you can do these things.
Yeah.
Like you're not stuck. Your life's not done. You can be a different person. What do you, when you hear someone with those limiting beliefs, regardless of what, you know, big or small,
Sure.
what is your reaction? What do you do with your own?
Okay, so 2 questions you just asked me. So I want to like number one is like if I hear that from somebody, right? Like someone's expressing to me where they're maybe going through a period of self-doubt or they're just not really sure or whatever it is. Like that's more or less like what you're asking. Like how do I handle that? Well, everybody's different. So if I'm not, let's say, at a point where if this is like a newer relationship, I'm really just going to seek to understand. Because you might tell me something, but if I don't really know you enough to do anything outside of listen, then I might just discourage you more.
Right.
So like initially it's kind of like I need to seek to understand like, okay, like, well, like tell me more about that. Like why do you feel that way? Like, you know, it could be someone being like, honestly, like when I was a kid, like this person told me I would never not be the fat kid.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was going to be fat and funny my whole life.
Yeah.
Totally random example, right?
Well,
but
no,
like,
but it's, like
that's like the reality of it for some people.
Yes.
So I try to like seek to understand to see like where the root of it is.
Yeah.
And then it kind of allows the conversation to naturally flow from there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's hard to give direction if you don't know where they came from.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not as easy as like Google Maps or stuff of that nature.
If only.
Yeah, right. And then like for myself, and I have limiting beliefs every single day.
Sure, yeah.
Certainly more recently, like really over the last 6 months, like I have almost every single day been at war with myself. Like dealing with some personal things and navigating relationships and things of that nature because like I'm a very empathetic person. And actually I got one of the best compliments from a coworker like 2 weeks ago. They were like, I just know that you feel things so deeply and it's really admirable. There were some other things, but in general, so like I feel things deeply. Yes. So like when I'm going through shit, sometimes I feel like, I don't know, like a roller coaster or a tornado or whatever. So like when I start having limiting beliefs, 2 things I try to do is number one is if they are external, understand that like, fuck them, you know, like
it's really hard to do.
It's hard to do.
It's really
but then
hard
also, to do. It's also important to reflect on the time where you weren't feeling that way. So if you're feeling a certain way, for me, it's like, okay, I'm feeling a lack of confidence today.
Yeah.
Well, you know, evaluate like, why is that? Like, why am I giving that away to something? And then remembering that I was just like 3 weeks ago, I was feeling really good about myself.
Right.
So what changed?
What changed?
And certainly when you're in a position where, and this is like, for me, like sometimes when I'm in it, it's hard to see the way out.
Yeah.
So once again, I think I said to you is like, you know, you got to learn to be where your feet are because it's not necessarily seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just seeing where your next step is.
It's hard to remember that you control your power.
Yeah.
So that be where your feet are.
Yeah.
That's what that means to you. Just like that. What does that mean to you exactly? Like,
yeah, it's a great question.
everything, right? It probably means so, like, it's just kind of it's very grounding. It's a very grounding statement.
For sure. It just goes to like, there's literally only one thing we can control, and it's like what we decide to do next. Like even us sitting right here now, it's like, okay, where does this conversation go? Like that's literally like, well, maybe when the conversation flows, it's in control, but it's like, but at the same time, it's not because it's happening organically. But like, like we have no control over what happened yesterday.
No.
And we have no control over what's going to happen tomorrow.
No.
So it's like, trying to be present is one of the most important things, because I think you even shared it on my Instagram story today, is like when you have a thought, you can either, we can either think about faith or fear. Mm. They both are rooted off of things that don't exist. Mm-hmm. They don't exist. Mm-mm. Like fear is not real. Like it's not real. Don't get me wrong. Like I went skiing last weekend. Second time ever in my life. I fell a ton.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I was like, fuck this, I'm done. Like literally, like I fell so hard, my skis fly off. I don't know where my poles are. My one friend on a snowboard is like army crawling back up the mountain for me. It's icy. And with a little pep talk, shout out to my boy Martin. He really helped me get down the mountain that day. But I had to like have that conversation in my head. So you came here to get good at this. Not like make it down. I was like, I want to get good at this. So like future life, it opens up more opportunities to socialize, for new relationships and things of that nature. Like I clip back in, and I was going probably like 35 plus miles an hour. I'm 245 pounds. I was flying. Mm-hmm. But I have to be honest, that was probably the most scared that I've been in a long time. So, because like I was fearful that, I don't even know what I was fearful of. So once again, it's like those two things, they both are weighted off of things that don't yet exist. So it's like, where are we going to spend our energy?
I'm someone who thinks all the time. I'm in my head about absolutely everything.
Sure.
So it's really hard. It sounds like you're similar.
Sure.
It's very hard to pull back and just remember that it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like I'm going to be okay, regardless. Okay. Regardless of outcome, right? Mm-hmm. Skiing's terrifying. I won't do it. But I'm a big baby and scared of getting hurt. That's what I'm scared of.
Let me tell you something. I fell a bunch, and with how you train, I bet your body's pretty resilient, so I think you'll be all right.
It probably is.
Yeah.
I took Mikey ice skating yesterday, and he was like, "Are you going to skate with me?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." I'm gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna enjoy watching you.
I was like on ice skates like once in my life, so I don't blame you.
I broke my arm when I was 8 roller skating,
really?
So you can't get me on anything that's like.
See, once again, I said earlier, shit happens when you're a kid, and it changes the whole trajectory of your life.
Oh God. When you agreed to do this, I sent you a form, and one of the things that you said is the pain you feel today will be the strength you see tomorrow. Mm. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So like we can obviously like, we can relate this directly to like training and physical fitness and things like that. In that sense, it's like, certainly like in the moment when you're pushing reps and sets and you're trying to set PRs and hitting, new personal bests. If you're training at the right intensity, right? And for most people that are getting into training or into exercise that have some type of physical transformation goal, it's really quite simple. You gotta do it consistently, but you also have to make sure that you're moving weight that's actually going to tell your body that it wants to build muscle and burn fat. So like, that should be painful at times.
Yes.
Yeah. Not to the point where like obviously like you're dislocating something or whatever, but there's a certain level of intensity. But directly related to that is like that pain that you're going to feel in those sessions is going to completely change and turn into strength, right? Like that's how we get stronger. Our body adapts, and no different than every experience that we have in life, because sometimes pain is the greatest teacher. We talk about like emotional pain. And the pain that we experience emotionally doesn't ever necessarily ever leave. I would say like it evolves and transforms, and like how we are able to like move on and like live with that. And sometimes, people, won't necessarily like actually feel it to learn from it. And then that pain can maybe come out in a not so strong way and manifest in unhealthy behaviors towards self or towards others.
Mm-hmm.
So like that quote to me is like, when you're going through a hard time or you're experiencing self-doubt or these limiting beliefs, or you don't quite think that you're worthy of the body that the girl next to you on the treadmill has or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we have to like, you have to learn from that stuff. So yeah, so the pain you feel today will be the strength you feel tomorrow or see tomorrow. That's it. Like, you go through, I think every negative experience in life will have a painful emotion attached to it. And it's like you really gotta, after you feel your emotions, you kind of take a step back and see it from an outside perspective, and you gotta learn from that stuff. And when you learn, you adapt, and that's where the strength comes from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's really hard to see, especially with the emotional stuff. Like it's hard when you're in the moment.
Oh yeah.
It's like I just want this pain to stop. I just want to feel better.
Mm.
And like the thought of ever thinking about it again is like crushing.
Mm.
And then one day when it's not so raw, if you did it right, I guess that's when you kind of understand what you took from it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like you have to be willing to want to understand something from it and learn from it.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to run away from it.
Oh God.
It's so easy to run away from it. Something that I really tried to work on later in life is just like confronting those things, with self and others.
Mm-hmm.
Having difficult conversations with myself, and also having difficult conversations with others. If I do something that doesn't make me feel good, I have to have an honest conversation with myself.
Yeah.
If somebody says something or does something to me that doesn't make me feel good, well, then I have to have an honest conversation with that person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, the thing is too, is like, there's no, when you're in it there's no timeline. There's no timeline. And I think that's part of where like the stress and anxiety comes from it. Mm-hmm. When you're like not feeling good for whatever reason. You don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, hopefully one day you can wake up and be like, holy shit, it's over.
I feel better.
Again, I feel better, but it's still not really ever over. You're just able to like move on with your life, and like your whatever that experience was externally, you're able to like, you still have that experience. You're just no longer like attaching those same emotions to it.
And I guess that goes into like just obsessing.
Mm. Yeah, rumination is a son of a bitch.
Oh my God. I live in that.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's funny because, I mean, I think more people out there probably think more like you think than you would ever imagine. Just nobody talks about it. When I was, like recently having a hard time, like talking to one of my friends, I'm like, dude, like, am I just like weak? Like, what the hell is going on? And he's just like, dude, you're fucking human. He's like, shut up, dude. Like, like whatever. Like, like, so many people, when they're going through stuff, they also don't talk about it. Not necessarily because they don't want to. It's because we're so afraid of being judged by other people. Yeah. And like, it's terrifying. Yeah. Like, we can always judge ourselves. And for whatever reason, being judged by other people is probably way more terrifying for most, even though like that's what should matter the least.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had yesterday I was at Lifetime, and I found myself in like a very uncomfortable position with another member. And he was making me very uncomfortable. And I didn't listen to my voice and like just hold true to my boundaries. Like I let him like keep talking to me, keep being like inappropriate.
Okay.
And after that was done, I was like, why didn't you just say, dude, shut the fuck, like get out of my face. I don't know you. Like this is, like who cares? It doesn't matter what he thinks. It doesn't matter what he thinks.
Doesn't matter.
But we're so conditioned to be nice. Like I was raised to be like, you're nice.
Yeah.
You got to be nice.
Sure.
So, and that's one of the things I tell my daughters all the time, because my daughters don't do that.
Yeah.
If my daughters are out and somebody makes them uncomfortable, they'll just look at like dead in the eye and just be like, you are making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Get out. My one daughter, she's like, I'm a minor, and just walks away. Like, she's like,
that's good. That's good. They have the ability to do so.
It's so good.
I've been out before, and someone's approached me that I've previously had like run-ins with, and I was like, hey, like I appreciate you saying hello, but like this isn't for me. So like,
thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, but you'll also be surprised with how people respond to that, because that was a very interesting response that they got from that. We're not going to talk about that now, but it was very interesting.
Really? Okay, well, this is over. You're going to have to tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, not for your audience.
Well, now I'm curious.
Maybe we'll do another one. Jay's juicy stories,
That would, my girlfriend was like, next podcast you do, we have to disguise our voices and just tell all the gossip from around town.
Oh boy. Yeah, you have to.
Anyway, that would be fun too.
Yeah,
anyway,
it'd be a lot of fun.
What does happiness mean to you?
Wow. Oh man. I think for me, happiness and peace are very directly correlated.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, like happiness is like when I am like feeling most regulated and calm and like at ease with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally an inside job, and it's interesting because I know for myself, it's like, once again, like interesting timing, because I've really been trying to work my way back to that, where like I have a light, I try to pride myself on being like an energy riser versus like an energy taker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I want people to feel safe around me. I want people to be, if they, like this past summer, like some lady was like decorating her lawn for 4th of July, and like she felt comfortable asking me for help. And I was like, of course, like, that's great. And I think that's like, once again, just being at peace is happiness. And peace is like managing internal chaos appropriately, right? Because it's always existing, and it's like figuring out a way to just have it regulated. Yeah. I mean, could I tell you like happiness to me is like sitting on the beach in the summer with my toes in the sand, listening to the waves, not being as fair skinned as I am today.
I know. Yeah.
Working on a nice tan, of course.
Yeah.
But is that more joy? Is that more joyful?
Right.
Or is that happiness?
It's also a fleeting moment. Right.
Yeah.
Like happiness is like a state. My girlfriend and I talk about what our affirmations are, what our mantras are. And I said, we were talking, she was like, well, what do you want? And I was like, I just want to be happy. She's like, you don't want to be happy. You want peace. So it's interesting that's because it's different. They're two different things.
Sure. But I think they're very directly correlated.
I agree with that.
I don't know if you can truly settle on the happiness if you're not at peace with yourself.
I agree with that.
It's tough. It's such a good question, because like, it's even like, people, go back to the comparison thing. It's like, well, what does success mean to you? And it's so easy, right? Especially like, we live in an affluent area. As good as you will be doing to the 100 people behind you, like you're still going to look at one person ahead of you and be like, fuck, why don't I have that?
Why don't I have that?
Or what decisions could I have made to allow me to have access to that? And I think that's something that we all go through all the time. And it's like, once again, it's like, it's like, what does happiness mean to you? And then furthermore is like, you have to understand like what success means to you, because as human beings, like I would say for the most part, like we're meant to evolve, and we want to thrive towards something. or at least like that's the hope, right? Like hopefully, like, you know, your audience is listening to this because they're trying to move forward.
Yeah.
Like they want something else. They're like, hopefully there's one nugget that I can get from today that makes my life a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right. That's always the goal when you share a message.
Yes.
Right? To hopefully give that to somebody. But you know, that's like it's even like, you know, when I coach individuals, it's like, well, what does success look like to you?
Yeah.
Because here's another thing too, right? Is like, so just obviously, like, once again, we know each other through the fitness world. So let's say someone has a 30-pound weight loss goal, and success to them is hitting the 30-pound weight loss goal. Well, what happens when you hit it?
Yeah. What then?
Yeah, what then?
Yeah.
Are you just for eternally successful now?
Right.
You know, so I think that's another thing, is like that success and happiness are very directly correlated. And that most people, if they really worked on defining those two things, like if they really dug into it, they would find themselves describing them very similarly.
Yeah.
If we're removing like the monetary aspect of it.
Sure.
Because most people would also agree, you know, the old saying, like, money doesn't buy happiness. It certainly makes our lives easier.
Yeah, right.
In many ways.
Yes. You're writing a book. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's all about this stuff.
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of just like going to be like creating a roadmap to become unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, I have a good friend and client of mine who is, you know, kind of, you know, talking about people that like believe in me. His name's Dr. Bo. He owns the Backspace Chiropractic out in Exton. He's a phenomenal human being. Mm-hmm. West Coast vibe. He's a San Diego guy. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we've worked together now for, oh man, you know, well over a year and a half. And he's just always had a tremendous amount of belief in me. And like oftentimes in our sessions, we're talking about the stuff we're talking about today.
Yeah.
He's like, you should write a book. Well, yeah, I never really thought about it. Mm-hmm. The next time I saw him, he's like, okay, we're putting an outline together. And we just started talking about it. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, we just wrote the introduction.
Yeah.
So really it's kind of, it's, you know, the goal is to just, number one for me is like, I feel very purpose driven to like help people change the way they look at things.
Yeah.
I'm naturally a healer. Mm-hmm. Like how I got to become that, we'll leave that for another time. But, and, you know, so for me, like I get a lot of fulfillment out of helping people. Even though sometimes that like, that can hurt me a lot.
Yeah.
So he has a tremendous amount of belief in me. We're writing this book. It's going to be fucking awesome. It's really uncomfortable because it's really stretching me. Because I also have to remember that whatever I talk about, if I don't do, I can't talk about it.
Uh-huh.
You know? Yeah. So like, I can't like, you know, it's even like, and everything I've shared today is like, yes, it's like, you know, obviously it's just like a lifelong experience of information gathering that's mm-hmm. allowed me to like have this perspective. So yeah, very early stages of writing this book, making me very uncomfortable, but that's where growth happens. Mm-hmm. Or so the wise ones say, that's where growth happens. Mm-hmm. So, but it's really cool. Yeah. So it's, you know, and you know, it's not fully defined yet, but essentially like, you know, giving people, number one, a perspective, but then like actionable things that we can do to move forward. Mm-hmm. Because when you talked about rumination earlier, like we fall into these courses of like limiting beliefs, like once again, like sometimes there just doesn't feel like there's a way forward or a way out. So
yeah.
Just hopefully creating another helpful tool and resource for people. And then, you know, hopefully that'll allow me to have something else to stand on so I can like go out and talk to more people about this stuff.
Yeah.
Because like long-term for me, like that is the goal. Like I want to be on stage. I want to be talking to people. I want to be helping people move forward. Mm-hmm. You know, some people will say that like knowledge is power. Well, to me, like knowledge isn't power unless there's action.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can know it all, but if you're not taking action on it, then what's the point of knowing it?
Right.
It might be fulfilling to a point, but so that's the goal, is to help people move to action, to get unstuck. And that could just be like getting to a point where they finally feel confident to have the hard conversation with their spouse, or finally like having the courage to sign up for the gym membership, or to, ask the cute girl out on a date or whatever. Like it's not ever. Like that's the cool thing about mindset, is because our mind is our life. There's a guy, his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you haven't heard of him, you should. He has done a tremendous amount of research about like more or less like your neural pathways in your brain, and like how you can rewire yourself, and like how he's helped so many people heal. But one of my favorite things that he says is that your personality is your personal reality. I was like, oh, that's another really good one.
That is good.
I got to lock that one in. So definitely uncomfortable and excited to start putting out some other content. And once again, like for me, trying to break through, you know? So
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting and scary.
Yes, it's totally scary. Yeah.
It's scary because it's like, the more that I decide to share and like talk about this stuff, it's like, once again, it's like just being super vulnerable.
Well, you're putting yourself out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, have fun with it. I can't wait.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Just give me the first answer that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay. If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
I have to say skiing right now. It's like top of mind.
Such fresh in your mind.
Like if I could like fly down the mountain, like take off, like tuck the ski poles back, like that'd be so sick.
Well, you just have yeah.
It's so fresh in my head, and like.
So are you going to go back this year?
I don't know. I think the season's ending.
Oh, it's
yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe, it's March. That makes sense.
Maybe next Monday. I don't know. Probably next year. Maybe do like a seasonal pass. I have a good friend that works at Buckman, so I'll get the ski gear and stuff. Definitely determined to get good at this goal, but that would be just because it's so fresh. Like, yeah, it'd be awesome to be like really bad. I mean, you're there and you're watching these like 4-year-old kid. Like this one kid was like skiing down the mountain backwards. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that was when we were ice skating yesterday. Some like toddlers were just like racing around, and I was like,
yeah,
good for you.
Yeah,
good for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's a mindset shift that completely changed your life?
Man, like it's just I think for me, just really owning the fact that it's like it is up to me. Back in obviously, I certainly succumbed to the COVID era. I was in the fitness industry, oh boy, from like 2012 through 2020. I remember, I was with Lifetime previously. I had left. Before that, I had worked at 3 different clubs, grand opened one of them, built a whole training team. Before I moved to King of Prussia, in my 5-year tenure, hundreds of trainers, hundreds of clients. And then during COVID, left Lifetime, left the relationship. With the end of that relationship came losing a dog. Reflecting back, it's so interesting because, man, I was such a problem then. Like I was so I ended up just getting so unhealthy. I was like 275 pounds. I let all these hardships, I fell back into the things that I did when I was younger to cope with stuff, which is like drinking and eating fast food and just because for me, that alternate reality was like where I was cool.
Right.
And that's where I wanted to be. But next thing you know, I'm 275 pounds and I'm like, well, what's it going to be, dude?
Yeah.
Just what's it going to be? And then just making that commitment, because the hardest thing, or I guess really here's the real answer to your question is anytime that you're looking to make a change, you have to come to acceptance that there's a part of the old you that has to die. The only way that you can truly move forward is you have to leave certain parts of you behind to make room and space for you to thrive and grow into the person that you want to become. I know.
We should have started with that.
Yeah, that's deep.
That is deep.
Yeah. It's so true though, right? I mean, it's like, and the thing is too, is like with saying that, is like, once again, it's like every decision that we made up to this point, every life experience will always be part of us.
Yeah.
But to your experience, when you mentioned that you had a stroke, you stopped letting it define you. So although it's still
After 10 years, but yeah.
but you made that mindset shift.
I did. Mm-hmm.
So once again, it's always a part of you. It's always going to be a part of your story, but you made that decision that I'm going to kill this off so it no longer controls me.
Yeah. We should have started there. I should have started there.
I told
Jay.
you, I got nothing else to do the rest of the day. And clearly, I can talk about this stuff literally all day long. So,
if your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh man, that's really good. I wish I had a song off the top of my head right now. So there's an artist. His name is Trevor Hall. He has a song. It's literally like, I think it's called "Put Down What You Were Carrying," and I think that would be my theme song because, being someone that feels things so deeply, like I need to make sure that I'm not always carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, so that I can move through this life the way that I want to.
Yeah.
And like also too, like I know, and like once again, being a purpose-driven person, like that like is a good song for me, because if people hear my song, then it'll hopefully inspire them to do the same.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll have to send it to you. That's like when I'm like in my own shit, like I'm like a song repeater. Like
yeah, I am too.
I'll put that song on and I'll just go walk for an hour.
Yeah.
And then by the time, sometimes I cry, sometimes I don't. And by the way, I don't cry all the time, but I'm not afraid to.
Yeah.
But it's like by the end, I'm like, okay, good. You put it down, dude.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah. I'm a song repeater also. And I'm not even going to tell you what I'm listening to now on repeat, but it's depressing. But I am a crier. I will just cry. I will just cry.
Hey, sometimes, I mean, I've had experiences like where it's just like, it just happens. I'm like, all right, whatever, here we go.
It is what it is, right? It's such a human, it's a human emotion. It's a human emotion. I wish that we were all just more honest with our emotions in general.
Yeah. They say it's healthy, so just let it be.
They say it's healthy.
Yeah.
It is.
I believe so. I feel better after.
We always feel better.
Always.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel stupid afterwards. Sometimes I cry and I'm like, that made you cry again?
Yeah. Again.
Again.
Repeat offender over here.
Jeez.
Yeah, right.
What's one thing people get wrong about mindset work?
That it's like, that just like it doesn't just happen. It's like you can't read the one quote. You can't just like anything else, like if you want to change it, you have to practice it. So here's something that it dawned on me probably like a year and a half ago, is that most people that are interested in like really like, okay, I'm really going to start working on my mind, getting better at controlling my emotions, controlling my thoughts, this, that, the other thing. There's likely some level of inspiration, or just quite frankly, there's just a need to change.
Yes.
Like the pain is so great. It's like, I can't live like this anymore. I got to change my shit.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they might look at like someone like me and be like, oh, that guy, he's so positive. Maybe people that see you from afar, you're smile. I mean, for whatever reason, as heavy as you lift, you still smile while you do it. So you look like a very happy, approachable person.
I do?
Yeah.
I try to look unapproachable.
Oh, well.
I'm failing.
Maybe it's because I know you. No.
Maybe I go.
But it's like, so anyway, so like I think a good thing for somebody that's like really starting to get into this is understanding that having a positive mindset, right? Because I think that's kind of the goal when you're working on this. Like, I want to feel better.
Yeah.
And being better is positive and things of that nature. Having a positive mindset doesn't mean that you're happy all the time.
Yeah.
But what it does mean is that when you're going through this shit, you understand that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And that gives you some peace in the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be shit that happens in life that no matter how good you are with your mind,
it's going to get you.
Yeah, it's going to suck.
Yes.
But once again, it's understanding that, people with a positive mindset are people that just genuinely understand that, this too shall pass. Like, so like, okay, great. Like, life is awesome right now.
Yeah.
Like right now, this is amazing, but I also have to make sure that I'm present and feeling grateful, because at some point this conversation is going to end. At some point this experience is going to end, right? At some point this life experience is going to end. So like, when things are really good, you have to genuinely like sink your teeth in and appreciate them because it's going to end.
Yes.
And then on the flip side of it is like when you're going through the shit, like having a positive mindset is understanding that this is also going to end.
Yeah.
It will get better.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but oftentimes it's like those tough times feel harder. So like the idea of like, the misconception of the mindset thing is like, it takes work. It's consistency.
Yes.
There's another quote out there that goes something along the lines is like, happiness is not a destination. It's just a way of life. It's a consistent pursuit. You never just have it and it stays. You can't put it in a cage and throw the key away.
Right.
Like you have to consistently go out and get it. So same thing with like people that are interested in mindset. It's good to read the quote. It's good to say the positive affirmations. It's good to do the sticky notes on the mirrors, like reminding yourself all those things. It's great to listen to this podcast. It's great to read the books. It's great to seek out a new friend circle that's maybe in a similar mindset that you're hoping to obtain. But the second you stop doing that stuff, every day that you do something for you, you're putting $1 in the bank, $1 in the bank, $1. You're making that investment. So if you miss a day, you don't go back to zero. You just withdraw $1.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you miss 2 months after you did it for 2 years, right? Your investments still have you ahead, but it might just take you a little bit time to get back to where you were and start getting better again.
That's a really good way to look at it because it's not an all or nothing thing.
No.
There are days that I just can't do it.
Yeah. And that's where you have to give yourself grace because we're not supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
But that's where the mindset is also in your favor when you say, hey, you know what? Today's just not the day.
Yeah.
And I heard this from a friend of mine. She's awesome. My friend Jenna. She lives somewhere in the middle of the country. And I heard this from her first. I'm sure it was from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And we're like a group coaching call. And she's like, guys, you just have to remember like 100% every day looks different. So like what I gave today, like, all the sake I freaking drank on Saturday and I don't know, I had a couple of mixed drinks yesterday. So my workout today was not the best workout. I still got it done. I got my sweat in. I feel really accomplished and good about it. So let's say that I woke up today and I only had 65% of myself to give to that. Well, me still going out and giving 65% was 100% of what I had to give today.
Yeah.
So like to your point of the all or nothing aspect, it's not, because every day 100% is going to look different.
Yeah.
And that's something that like really stuck with me.
Yeah. When I met you, we met because we were both working out at 4:00 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
That's how we met. And I don't know if you do this. I give nicknames to everyone that I don't know.
I don't, but
you don't? Oh, I do. Everyone there that's fairly regular has a nickname because I don't know their names. So you were the happy trainer because I realized that I learned that you were a trainer at some point. I didn't know your name, but I was like, but he's always so fucking happy. Like he always seemed so happy. So you were probably one of the only ones with a kind nickname. Just, everybody else's are interesting.
So I don't give people nicknames, but I would show you my phone right now. So what I do though, especially like number one is like, the gym can be a social environment. Obviously now that I've been back at Lifetime full time for a year and like 3 months being back there full time. I think it's one of the most powerful things is like knowing someone's name.
Yeah.
So I literally have a list in my phone of every single person I've ever met at Lifetime that's a member and how I know them.
Really?
I would say like 90% of people that I've shaken hands with and got their name, I turn around, pull up the notes section in my phone.
Do you really?
I'll have to show it to you. I would imagine there's like 200 people on
You probably meet some fascinating people there. Like,
yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably so much fun.
Yeah, part of the reason why, when I made the decision to go back to Lifetime, through COVID, I had, did my own little personal training in home and virtual. And then I tried some other career opportunities through some connections. And ultimately, I was met with a lot of unfulfilled promises. And like one of my biggest things is like integrity.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite compliments was like I was hanging out with a friend, months ago, and they were just like, "You are one of the most intentional people I've ever met."
Yeah.
and intentional and integrity are like very, they're very like parallel to me as far as like core values go.
Yeah.
And, so when I work for or alongside a company or somebody that doesn't have that, like I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm just out. But part of the reason why I knew I wanted to get back into Lifetime was, I knew that it could help me redirect the direction my life was going. Not just because I was familiar, but they really made me feel appreciated. Like the second I expressed interest to going back, it was like I felt like I was like on top of the world.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of that, and that's something I'll forever be grateful for. But I also knew that it would put me in a position that I would meet awesome people just like yourself. Because otherwise, like, we would have never met.
No.
So, everything happens for a reason. And like, it's definitely, to your point, I definitely, there's like a sliding scale of interesting and fascinating, right? Because some are fascinating in one way and some are fascinating in another way. And a lot of different personalities for sure.
A lot of different personalities.
Yeah. And then that works great because, it's like, I don't know what's next for me.
Yeah.
I know what I love to do and where I want to go. And I really see it as a great environment that'll allow me to make an impact in a really big way.
Yeah.
Because here's one that you should never forget.
Okay.
This is a really great message. And it's, if you change your diet, right, you can change your body. But if you change your mind, you can change your life. Right? So, so being in that environment every day as a one-on-one trainer, as a coach of coaches, as hopefully somebody that's positive and uplifting in the community, it's really allowed me over the last year to step back into a lane that's more directly aligned to my purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like that.
it's cool.
It is really cool.
Like, I don't know what the next year is going to bring to me.
Sure.
There's times where I feel really polarized, like, oh, and my ego is talking like, oh, well, I should do this because I can prove that myself and that everybody that I can go out and make more money and be successful in this type of role because people tell me, oh, you'd be great at this. But, you got to step back and be like, well, okay, but then what? You do that, then what? Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Once again, like getting back to a point where like I'm just incredibly grateful the last year and a half of my life being back in an environment like that is really allowing me to set up the next 5, 10 and so forth for me.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's so like I turned 36 today. To some I'll be really old and to some I'll be like at the perfect age and to some I'll be young.
Yeah.
But for me, man, I had like a tremendous amount of anxiety because I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be in my late 30s and this, that, the other thing. And like, once again, in comparison, like, oh, like, at this point, I'd hope to have a nice, beautiful house and a beautiful wife and awesome kids that I could be an amazing father to and things like that, which is something that I still foresee in myself and I very much strongly desire in my life. Because I know that kids can be headaches, but I do believe one of the greatest gifts that you can ever experience is like by like leading by example for a small human.
Yeah.
And really shaping their perspective and watching them grow and all the experiences that you get to have with your 4.
Yeah.
Some days you probably want to put your head through a wall, but hopefully there's still some days where you're like, okay, like this is kind of sick that I get to do this,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I grew these little people.
Yeah, exactly. I like a little chia pet. It's got a water head. Not quite. Not quite. Not quite. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of just rambling here.
That's okay. Thanks for doing this with me, Jay.
Of course. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was awesome.
You're the best.
You're the best.
I'm happy we became friends.
Me too.
Yes.
That's it for this episode. If you had fun, learned something, or just feel a little less alone in the chaos, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want to keep the conversation going, come find me on Instagram at HeatherMoves_, because midlife is way more fun when we do it together. Until next time, keep moving forward, or at least keep moving. See ya.